Welcome to the Winning with Shopify podcast. This is the podcast to help you scale your Shopify store into a money-making machine. Tired of watching customers drift away after one purchase? Then it's time to rocket your returning customer rates and drive 6 times more second purchases with LoyaltyLion. Create your own loyalty program and use points and rewards to keep customers coming back again and again. Want to find out more? LoyaltyLion are offering WWS listeners an exclusive 20% discount on the first year of any plan. To claim your free offer, go to LoyaltyLion.com/win. Now, over to your host, Nick Truman.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. For anyone that's not tuned in before, it's a very special episode because it's the first episode of 2024. So happy new year, everybody. I hope you're so excited about this year. I'm incredibly excited to see where e-commerce is going to go this year. We're going to be talking today specifically as well about discounting, which naturally we're going to look back at peak and Black Friday, which should actually be called Black 2 and a bit months because some of you have been doing it far too long. So we'll come on to that when I introduce my guest in a moment as well. We're starting a new series this month where we're going to be looking at loyalty programs and how you can engage your customers more and everything else around that. So how to acquire customers in, how to use loyalty to help acquire, how to keep customers longer as a result of acquisition, as a result of loyalty, and a whole range of other things. So I hope you're super excited for this year to kick off, and apologies in advance. I do have a bit of a cold, as you can probably hear from my voice. Those in the British Isles will relate. We've all been very unwell recently. It's been a manic Christmas with colds, COVIDs, and flu. But enough from me. Let me introduce my very special guest. Her name is Fiona, and she's from a company called LoyaltyLion. So Fiona, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick. It's really great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great stuff. Well, I'm super excited to have you guys on the show, and you guys are obviously sponsoring this month as well, which is really cool. So we're going to be talking to partners, merchants, and a whole range of other people from your side as well. But for most people listening, I imagine that LoyaltyLion is a name they may have heard of, may have played with, but also may not have heard of at all. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background to yourself, how you got involved, and then what LoyaltyLion do today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with LoyaltyLion coming up to 6 years, actually. So quite a long time.
Wow.
Been working in marketing for around about, depressingly, 15 or so years, and a little bit of everything. I've been through SEO agencies, PR agencies, content agencies, and finally I landed in e-commerce kind of by accident around about 10 years ago, and just absolutely loved it. Retail and e-commerce is just such a fascinating space. And then actually fell into a loyalty agency, which again was a whole different direction for me. But I found the operational side of loyalty for a business versus the consumer psychology side of loyalty just, again, really fascinating. And then I found a role at LoyaltyLion that brought loyalty, e-commerce, and everything together into one, and it was that was the start of
amazing,
a really fun 6 years. In terms of LoyaltyLion, we're a loyalty platform, and we help Shopify brands to increase their returning customer rates by building and launching your own loyalty program. So, hopefully, fingers crossed, giving you everything that you need to build your own program that you can run and manage yourself.
Amazing. And we'll talk about what loyalty is in a minute, but we didn't talk about actually including this at all, but I really want to. You're not just a guest on this show, are you? You run webinars and other stuff as well within LoyaltyLion. So if people want to plug in more or they want to engage with you guys without actually speaking to the sales team or filling out a form quite as early as today, tell us about your webinars. What are they about? How can people tune in? How can they find those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a fair bit. To be honest, we have our own series called E-commerce Exposed. Those are just 15-minute sessions, actually, where we just interview a guest on what's happening. So we had a Halloween special. We've had a Black Friday debrief. And that series is going to be continuing in the new year. So if you just pop onto LoyaltyLion.com and sign up to the newsletter, you would get alerted to that, and also all over our socials as well. But then we participate in a lot of webinars with partners as well. So whether that's, we run our own content campaigns where we interview lots of different tech partners and agency partners in the Shopify space and try and get their expertise. But then we contribute to a lot of their webinars as well. And again, if you can find your way onto a mailing list or onto a social channel, you should get alerted to most of those.
Excellent. Sounds amazing. So e-commerce exposed, guys, go and check it out. I've watched a couple of webinars actually, and they're brilliant. And I think where we tend to go into kind of what I would describe as a full meal, you guys do a little bit more snack content and kind of hear the headlines rather than a more conversational approach. So yeah, if you want something a bit more speedy and to the point on particular topics, go and check those guys out. And obviously, if you're sitting in the car for an hour, then winning with Shopify is your one. So there we go. Amazing stuff. Well, look, we're talking about loyalty. So why don't we first start off? What are some of the core principles behind loyalty? Like, what is, you mentioned obviously Shopify, and most of our listeners are on Shopify or connected to ecom somehow. Otherwise, you guys are in the wrong place. But tell us a bit about what loyalty actually looks like. How do you build loyalty, and what's the reward at the end of it for a brand?
Yeah, great question. I think, to be honest, it can look different for different people. I think you can be a really established brand that actually maybe already has loyalty, but you want to reward that loyalty. You may already have repeat purchases, returning customers, but you may not feel you're doing enough to kind of ring fence that community and say thank you and reward those people for coming back and shopping with you. Or you can be completely the other end of that scale, and you can be quite a young business, focusing on acquisition, spending a lot on your ads, but not seeing people come back for a second purchase. And you're really just sort of throwing good money off the bat at that point. So then it's about building up a return on your acquisition spend by securing that second purchase, and then hopefully the third, fourth, fifth, but increasing that returning customer rate. So, I mean, I guess it's either getting returning customers through the door, or it's rewarding those returning customers that actually do buy from you quite regularly because they already know and love you. So it does sort of depend which end of the scale you are at in terms of building up your member base or your customer base.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to be really clear for anyone that's like going, oh, loyalty sounds cool, sounds expensive. One of the biggest reasons we do it, and I completely agree with everything you've just said, Fiona, and one of the biggest reasons we do it, and you've worked for an agency like us in the past, as you say, in the SEO, PPC space, it costs so much in terms of effort to get a good ranking on SEO. It costs so much in terms of effort and advertising costs on Meta ads, on Google ads. So if somebody then buys 3 or 4 times from you, from, let's face it, an email or something when they purchase that leaves a little seed in their head to go, I'm going to come back, and they come back without you having to do tons more SEO, without you having to do any more paid advertising, then you've now got a second order from them. So if they spent £100 on order 1, £100 on order 2, you've now got £200, but you've only paid the advertising bit once. So now your return on investment has actually doubled in theory. And I wish it was that easy. We're going to dive more into it than that. It's not just a case of going, buy some more stuff, and customers go, yeah, sure. There's a lot more to it, obviously. But I think certainly from where I'm sitting in my industry, that's the main thing we're trying to focus on when we talk about loyalty with brands. Is it's so expensive and so time consuming, and actually sometimes as well really demoralizing, but also very rewarding when it's working. But if you can get that second order, it takes a lot of pressure then off those initial acquisition channels. Now, you mentioned rewards, and anyone who's seen the title of this or read the first bit of the description will know that what we're not going to do today is preach about discounting. Talk to us about rewards. What kind of rewards could somebody offer their customers, and when?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I won't pretend that a lot of loyalty programs aren't based on money off rewards. Of course they are. You've got to start somewhere. So, the most basic program will likely include X number of points for a £5 off voucher, for a £10 off voucher. You'll then start to see those financial incentives creep into things like free shipping. Obviously, yes, that does still cost you as a brand. So, we can't get away from the fact those rewards do exist. But what I really love is we're seeing people really extend that financial reward into things like free products. So I was looking, for example, at a pet store brand yesterday, and you can claim your points in exchange for trying out sample sizes of new products. So they had like pet chews, and I don't have a dog, I can't remember what the other thing was, but essentially, that you can get these free product rewards. Yes, you're still giving something away, but you're also putting a different product that person hasn't tried before in front of them. And you're giving them the sample, which means they're quite likely to come back and then add that to their basket the next time. Their next order, the value increases. Fantastic. So I think that's a really powerful one. But then we're also seeing people stray more into experiences, which again, I'm really enjoying. We have the charitable side of that. So another dog food brand I was looking at yesterday, Edgard and Cooper, they actually allow you to redeem your points in exchange for a charitable donation. So you can use your points to give a dog in a dog shelter a doggy dinner, which I absolutely love. We've got other people, Wild Nutrition, for example, you can use your points to plant trees. So people are really sort of using, that doesn't cost them a lot to deliver, but it's quite a big value add in terms of the member and what they're getting for that reward. And they feel like they're contributing to something they care about, which is great.
Absolutely. Sorry, go on.
And then, that kind of extends once you get into the realm of tiered loyalty programs and you want to give more exclusive rewards to your most valuable customers. Then we're getting into the realms of exclusive event invitations, access to exclusive content. Another one I've seen recently is the ability to join a focus group and give feedback on products. So I mean, yes, you have to start small with your more basic financial incentives, but there's so much scope to do something a bit differently, introduce more people to your products, get people more connected to your brand through your rewards as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the challenge with discounting is it's just a race to the bottom. And we'll talk about Black Friday in a minute, because I imagine that would have been that and peak would have been possibly different from one another and very different to any other time of the year, certainly in the loyalty space. But I think the free samples one is so smart. Two ways I've seen brands do that, and both of which have been on the podcast. And apologies, I have so many guests, guys. I cannot remember who everybody is. I've done nearly 400 episodes now. But there was one that was talking about the when they have lots of stock they want to get rid of.
Yes.
Firstly, they assess, do people like it? It's just not relevant right now. But if we, say we're selling protein shakes, which I think was one of the brands that came on. They said there was a particular flavor they released that was delicious, but no one was buying it. And when people did buy it, it got better reviews, better loyalty, better return rates, better lifetime value. But they were struggling to market it, which is cool. As soon as you can work out kind of where the problem is, that's 80% of the solution, isn't it? Now it's like, okay, we just need to get people to like it more. So we need to push those reviews to the front, etc. But actually what they did is they started saying that if you spend, if the average order value, using that as their KPI, average order value was say £60 on site. If you spend £75 or more to try and push the average order value up, you get a free protein shake. We will send you a free one of an exclusive flavor or something. So they actually took the flavor off the site initially, apart from repeat purchasers. Said, if you want this, it's exclusive to you now. So just click this, always click this link to come buy it. Which is like, I've got an exclusive link, I'll come buy it. So those guys were happy. And then everybody else, it was like, we're gonna choose a free new exclusive flavor, which was the one that they were struggling to market and get that first order on. Started putting those in. It was 30% more in price. And the amount of people that received those tried that one first and went, I didn't even use the other stuff. And this is brilliant. So I now only drink that, because one of the things in the protein shake world is they all taste disgusting. So they managed to get rid of their stock, which was quite cool. Get rid of stock people weren't buying, but also create a bit of a loyalty behind that. And I think, the new and exclusive element as well of saying, if you send everybody an email saying you are currently £80 in this calendar year, it's currently November, you're £80 away from joining our VIP club for 2024, where we will send you free stuff to try. And when you send the free stuff, there'll be a caveat with the free stuff that says you have to fill out this survey form on our website or you're removed from the program. So now they're kind of opted into a focus group. They get free stuff, but the free stuff you're sending is not enough. If we use protein shakes again, you're not sending them enough that now all their protein shakes are free. It's like one a month to try, and it's always delicious. So you're going to go and buy some. And they give you 20% off for being part of the focus group, which is cheaper. And this is the point I wanted to come on to, actually, putting my maths brain on. If it costs you, say, 40 or 60 pounds or dollars to acquire each customer, what you could do is go, actually, we're just going to take half of that. So if it was $60 per customer, we're going to take 30, and we're happy to reward all repeat customers with $30 worth of stuff. But we don't, as we were saying, we don't want to discount the products, because as soon as you start discounting them, it's a race to the bottom. How hard would you say it is for brands, though, to avoid that discounting? Like, how tempting is it for them?
I think we have to be honest. You're never going to be able to move away from it entirely, but you can decide who you're going to give it to.
Yep.
And I think you literally just hit the nail on the head there. So yes, you probably, if you want to win on Google Shopping or on Instagram, you're probably going to have to apply that discount for your first customer. Does it have to be an enormous discount? Possibly not. I think we maybe go slightly too far there, but you will potentially have to use that discount to draw someone in the first time, but that doesn't mean you have to use it every time thereafter. I think it's super important to not condition people to expect that 25% off from you every time. And the loyalty program just gives you a vehicle for offering something different. It may still, as you say, it may still be 15-20% off, but in a different guise. But as soon as that person comes back for a second purchase, they're worth more to you. By the time you get to third or fourth, a loyalty program member will purchase almost 3 times more regularly than a non-member. So you're going to recoup that cost. So unfortunately, discounting is a necessary evil. I think, as much as I would love everybody to stop doing it, I don't think anybody's ever going to be able to take that leap. But only do it the first time, or potentially if you've got somebody that if you've identified when people churn, maybe it's after the purchase 5 or 6, that's your major drop-off point. Bring them back in then, but try to sort of wean people off them in between, I think, is the answer.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will not name either of these brands by name, but we've had, and we'll bring this into Black Friday as well, I think, because this is when it happened. We've had 2 clients now that have potentially destroyed their brand value, as in the value people perceive connected with the brand. And that's because they went too crazy for too long. And I think you mentioned this as well just before we started recording, went too crazy for too long before Black Friday. So one of the challenges we had was people weren't buying stuff, or they said, we want to do Black Friday, but we're going to go early. We're going to go in October instead of November. So they went in October, which was kind of good. They cut across and they just did a 20% off. And that was great. Then end of line stuff, they started whacking up to 50 or 60% off. And then it's like, hang on a minute. So now you've been charging double the whole time. And that is literally when you read kind of reviews and forums online, that is what consumers talk about, certainly across the sort of Western world at the moment, is why was I paying full price? Like if you're happy to ship all this, it says that every size, every color is still in stock, even though it's an end of line. And it's like, well, the value's kind of lost now, isn't it? And then come November, they didn't want to have the same sale running in October, November. So they discounted more against kind of our advice and others' advice. And now we've hit December and they took everything off discount. Sales have all but stopped. All the advertising still running is bad. And we've still got 2 clients in that at the moment. And please, if you're thinking of working with us, don't hear that as don't work with spec. We were advising against that. But don't get me wrong, we've got an absolute battle plan coming into this year, into 24. We've got a battle plan of how we're going to turn that around now. But it's going to take some drastic action and probably a new product range to say, actually, these are all the new products, and put it, and kind of get our marketing hats on, which I think I often use the phrase marketing's lost from digital marketing. We get so caught up in these loyalty programs and PPC and stuff that we're doing over here. We get so caught up in it, we forget that these are humans and we need to give them a reason to buy from us, which is beyond actually what's on the page. So you mentioned the new sorry,
just to add to that, consumers are not as silly as we think they are. And everybody I talk to who's not in e-commerce has been saying this year, well, I mean, it's not early access to a sale, is it? It's just a sale, and it's not a Black Friday sale. It's just a December sale. I think even consumers are slightly confused as to what's happened this year because, it's meant to feel special. Early access to a sale is meant to feel special, but you're giving it to everybody 2 months out. It loses that exclusive feel very quickly. Or if it runs for too long, it loses that that urgency. I even had my mother-in-law saying she was sending something back because she'd seen it at a lower price. And I was thinking,
I did that myself. I bought one of those new robot hoovers and I ordered it and it cost me like a couple £100 or a few £100. And then I saw it, the same one in the same shop, discounted. So I ordered it again, discounted, and I literally turned up in the shop with the first one. And the guy was like, "Oh, are you doing a swap? It doesn't say that." And I said, "No, I'm returning this one at this price and buying that one at this price." And he rolled his eyes and was like, "These idiots in marketing." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm one of them."
But I think you're right. The marketing piece is lost. And I was talking about this with on another webinar recently. We're not creative anymore. There's, rather than just rolling out a discount, what else could you do? What other value could you add? How could you frame your sales differently? I did actually see a couple of our clients sending out emails to say, we are not doing a Black Friday sale, but we are going to offer this new product at a reduced rate, just this one, because it's something we're really excited about. And it was nice to see people thinking slightly differently. I think creativity is all but lost at that time of year because there's a formula. We just roll out discounts. It's a bit of a shame.
We did a marketing campaign for one of our clients, and so we had to get CEO approval to put this on the website. But he at first he said no, and then we sort of said, can we at least talk to him? Can we have 20 minutes of his time? We as in like the marketing team and us as the agency. And the idea was he had said no Black Friday. We're too premium. We just kill our brand, absolutely kill
Mm.
it. And we also got on our knees with amen. This is fantastic. But we said to him, why don't we put a strap line across the top where you'd normally have a big black and white or big black and gold. Gold seems to be the color this year, certainly at UK brands.
Awesome.
Black and gold, like Black Friday sale now on. We put a thing saying too good for Black Friday. Click here. And that gave you a tour of their farm where all the animals were and all the crops and
Great.
everything, which they used to make all of their products. There was a social media video, a video that gone out on social. We put it on that page as well. So sort of say like, this is who you're buying from.
Mm.
And it kept referring back to this whole thing of like, this is Dave who works in the vineyard to make our wine. And he also works a bit in the apple fields or the orchard as well to make cider, because that's one of our big products. And then it kind of cut back to one of the managers. He said, like, and I can't justify underpaying Dave. He's worth every penny. So we're not doing Black Friday. And then like onto the
That's
next team.
fantastic.
And they did a really nice, kind of very friendly way with cool background music. And yeah, the reviews were unreal. And our sales like tripled. And we got into the local press
Mm.
for it. And it said, I won't say who they are, but it sort of said, so and so refuses to conform. Refuses to
Mm.
back this kind of retail thing. The CEO, he got interviewed eventually, and he was like, "Cheers for the interview, guys. I really enjoyed that. It's great for my profile." And we sort of like, "Well, no, it's good. We've done a good marketing campaign." And it was just
Yeah.
one line of text that turned into a page with a video we already had. And we just edited it slightly, say we can't justify underpaying Dave and Jane and Susan. They all work really hard, and we can't. And if we cut our
Yeah.
prices, we have to cut somewhere else. So we're not doing that. It's
Yeah.
worth the money, and it worked really, really well actually. And I love what you said. I completely agree with what you said about it being special for the customer.
Mm.
And so to ask you a question on that, specifically relating to loyalty, is through loyalty, how can you make, and I use the word relationship, how can you make that relationship between brand and consumer? How can you make that special through loyalty? In terms of like the design, the communication, the frequency of things. How can you start to work out some of those things as a brand to build a special relationship there between the two?
I think it's value exchange.
Mhm.
It's a very transactional relationship in theory. I buy you supply a product, I buy it from you. That's
Mm.
it, and that's kind of that's why I've always found supermarket and grocery store loyalty programs so fascinating, because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not really loyal to Tesco. It's just around the corner. I don't
Mm.
necessarily love Walmart. It's just there.
Yeah.
But I think what I really love about this Shopify e-commerce ecosystem that we operate in is they're different. These brands, they have personality. They have founders with real stories who have set up these businesses for reasons. You've got skincare people who couldn't find the skincare product that worked for them, so they went and created it. You've got that farm where you've got people who love what they do day to day. Probably the farming's been in the family for centuries.
Yep.
There's these amazing stories, and I think the loyalty program gives you an opportunity to tell that story a bit more. We see a lot of people do really great welcome emails. So you join the program where the loyalty page has that story featured on it. So you think, yeah, actually, I want to be a part of that. But then the next thing it does is give you a reason to interact with that brand in between purchases. So it's not just, I need something, I'm going to go buy it. It's awarding points for social media likes and follows, so that person then sees you pop it up in their feed and hears your stories really regularly. It's points for creating an account, points for sharing your birthday with them, points for completing a profile or something, so that they can send you more relevant information. I think all of these opportunities to engage with the brand in between purchases, that's how you create an emotional connection with your customer, because you're not just trying to sell to them. You're trying to talk to them in between times as well. And you're trying to add value or help them unlock value when they're not buying. They've constantly got in the back of their minds, oh, actually, I could just go on Instagram, and if I post and I mention them, I'll get another 50 points. That's 50 points towards my next thing. And it's such a two-way relationship, because they're more likely to come back and buy sooner because they've got that points balance. They're going to unlock that reward. But at the same time, the brand's not just pushing products, not just selling the whole time. And I think that's really the opportunity to do that in the space we're in is far, far greater than it is in a lot of the bigger retail or sort of hotel loyalty programs, airline programs, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what an amazing statement. I think you've literally covered probably the whole reason of why. And what I love is you've done it on two levels. And I think one level is a sort of actually, what do we need to project as a marketing message? And also, what do we need to understand about? I love what you say about stories. And that's one of the reasons I love talking to merchants so much on the show is hearing people's stories. I mean, one of the ones that springs to mind from probably would have been like 7 or 8 weeks before this one goes out, maybe slightly earlier. Trainer Vineyard. They're a vineyard in, I think it was Canada. Apologies again, I interview so many people in webinars as well as these podcast episodes. But talking to those guys, they only hire people that are passionate about wine and want to talk about wine, so that you talk to anybody at the vineyard and ask them any question. It's the most passionate kind of response you ever get. And I think the challenge we've got, and we'll talk about this, I think, in a second as well, is the challenge we've got is how do you do it on a web page? And that's literally the $1 million question, isn't it? How do you do it on a web page? And when I say a web page, I just mean the pixels on the screens. It could be email inbox, could be a web page, could be a text message, email, whatever it is. I think I completely agree that it's about that value transaction, that value adds. Why should I engage with this brand, and what does this brand mean to me? And I think I find it funny when I talk to non-e-commerce people who say like, "Oh, I never click on those ads, the top of Google," or like, "I will not be sold to," and stuff like this. And I'm kind of like, "Yeah, yeah." And I sometimes if I've got the energy, I sort of go, "I'll leave it for 5 minutes. We'll talk about something else, change the conversation," and then I'll come back and go, "Oh my gosh, have you seen Coca-Cola's new advert for Christmas?" They're like, "Oh my gosh, I love it," and I'm like, "Well, that's marketing, and you said you don't need." You're not susceptible to marketing, and there we go. So yeah, but it's Coca-Cola. It's like, well, there we go. That's it. Or the classic one in the UK is John Lewis. It's like a famous moment every
Yes.
Christmas when John Lewis Christmas ad comes out, and every year they talk about it all over our news channels. And if you think for a second that there's just one creative genius who makes a really cool makes a really cool advert and everyone just organically jumps off the back of it, you've got it so wrong. Like, I've spoken to their PR team a few times over the years. They work
Mm.
tirelessly to make
Oh,
the advert, make it successful and get it spoken about. Um,
yes. And it starts
yeah.
in probably January.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
In fact, talking to some of our brands, I mean, it's January 24 right now when you guys are watching this anyway. We always record stuff a little bit before. But it's January 24 when you guys are watching or listening to this episode. Have a look today at Black Friday. Have a look at peak. What happened the last few years? Was it better or worse? You should, if you're doing things properly, you should know this already. You should know which channels have been driving stuff, what your average order value was, whether the promotions and discounts and things you ran worked or not. Look at it now, plan now. So when you get to that time, you go, good job I made all those notes because I can't remember. And actually, you'll have personnel changes throughout the year and customer bases will adapt a little bit. So the more you write down and document now, the better. We're doing it with all of our clients in January. Every last one, we're doing 2024 strategy based on what happened over peak and what happened outside of peak. And I think that's really
Yeah.
key. But I think that
But
leads me on
also,
nicely. Oh, so go on.
oh, sorry, but how many new customers did you acquire over the peak? And
Exactly.
have they come back? Or what do you need to do in January to get them back for that second purchase? Because once you've got a second, it's easier to get a third, a fourth,
Yeah.
a fifth. But how many people shopped for the first time with you? And what are you going to do to make them shop with you again?
Yeah. In fact, while we're on that topic, I wasn't going to cover this today, but something we've been using loads with our clients to actually review exactly that is if you guys go into Shopify and then into analytics or reports, I always get your way around it is there's a report in there called a customer cohort analysis. That is the most important part of Shopify, in my opinion, because other stuff that's potentially more important you can get from other systems, but that's the bit from Shopify. What the cohort analysis does, the column A will say 100% and have all your months with the year next to it. So it'll have the last 12 probably. You can change the date ranges, and it will tell you 100% of the first column because it's showing you everyone that bought, and then it shows you a percentage that bought again within a month, and then a percentage that bought within 1 to 2 months, 2 to 3 months, 3 to 4 months, and onwards. And what you'll probably find is if you did loads of discounting on Black Friday, you have this diagonal line going across where it's like the September ones came back in November, the August ones came back, it was a month later, but it was November. So it's always, they will come back in November to buy again. And I think I completely agree with what you said, Fiona, about how do you get that second order? A lot of brands try and plan that so that Black Friday is one of the dominoes that you're going to knock down, and there's already something to follow up in January. What you don't want to do is get to January and go, no one bought from us again until the following Black Friday. And it's worth looking at how many of those customers were new and how many bought from us previously. And again, Shopify, you don't need to do, I mean, there's some things you might want to clean up, but you don't need to do too much data cleansing, data cleanup, where you've got 3 different names at the same address, for example, and you just go, actually, I just want this to be one. You don't need to do tons of that. Shopify is quite clever. So just getting that analysis, we play the how many times do your customers buy from you game with clients from time to time, where we sort of say like, okay, everyone who bought in January last year, January 23, what percentage of them do you think bought again before the end of December? And they'll often say like, oh, what, 30%, 40%? And generally speaking, it can be as low as like 3 or 4%. And it's quite a worry. And it's like, right, 2024 target, that's one. And great for me because it's nothing that I have to get involved in because we're on the acquisition side. I was going to say inquisition, but acquisition side. But certainly, what are some of the things your merchants that you've worked with, or also going back to your agency days, what are some of the things that LoyaltyLion merchants are doing, planning into January to get those customers back?
Yeah, there's a few things. I guess one thing, like if you ran any kind of bonus points or double points over Black Friday rather than just the discounts, then with any luck, people have got a huge points balance stored up. So the key thing in January is getting those emails out to say, you are 10 points away from a reward. If you follow us on, like, all you have to do is follow on Instagram to get those 10 points. And then, you unlock this amount on your next purchase. So I think that constant reiteration of how many points do you have? Do you have any rewards available? Monthly point statements, that kind of thing. Having that set up as you run into the new year is really important. We also see people use points expiry. So if you,
I just wrote down the word expire to ask you. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, if you set your expiry date slightly differently just for that first quarter, so that actually if you don't return and use them by say the end of February, it depends a little bit on your repeat purchase cycles, what products you're selling, but let's say end of February, an arbitrary date, use them or lose them essentially. And again, that gives you another reason to reach out and say, actually, you need to come back quickly. We also see people running those double or bonus points events in January or February. Again, not for everybody necessarily, but for a set group of customers who you believe you can win back in that time, or are most valuable to win back in that time. Run another event in January and February, set it around the New Year blues, who knows? But that's quite a clever way of doing things. And I guess the other thing is just making sure that don't just assume that because somebody didn't create an account over Black Friday, they're gone. You can easily run campaigns in January to say, actually, if you joined the program over Black Friday, you could have earned these many points. Do it now, create an account, you'll get those many points, you'll unlock a reward straight away, come back and spend it.
Nice.
Just because Black Friday is finished, that doesn't mean that you can't go back to those people and reach them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the points, certainly, doing some sort of points program where it's like double points during Black Friday and 10% off is good. And now we're talking 10% off, which isn't really a devalue, is it? It's like it's cost of delivery, or like I said, it's half the tax bill, as in the VAT, or local tax, I think you call it in the US. But yeah, that's half the tax covered in most territories. And so I think there's, as you say, there's much smarter ways of doing it. Yeah, I was going to ask about expiring and go, why don't you get the points to expire and go, well, you've got to use these points in the next 3 months or they're gone. I love the idea, though, as you said, about like, you just need 10 more points and you can get this. Especially if you've got a wide enough product range, you could always just promote like these 5 products, any one of them would be free. So you deliberately go for one that's going to cost them an extra £50 order to get the points. And then once they've made that order, you've got a thing on your site that says, order again, and you can use your, you now have enough points for these products. Why don't you add one of these in using your points balance? And if you do it in the next hour, it's free. And now their points are back to 0. So you owe them nothing, and they purchased a load of things, which is obviously a massive bonus. And that's the aim of the game here.
Yeah, with a larger basket than they probably would have done. Well, if they even would have had a basket before.
Yeah. And when it comes to points, how much does that come into play with returns, for example? Like, do you find brands would do something where they can say, okay, we can return this item and give you $100 refund, or actually we give you $110 worth of points? So although you're sending the product back, we've still got the money in our bank account. We're basically giving you a 10% discount, and you're still going to buy something else.
So I'm going to get in trouble with my customer success team if I promise something we can't deliver here, because I'm not sure on the technicals. But absolutely, what a great idea. Yes, we already run, if you return a product, you do lose the points. So the company is not liable for that in any way, because we know returns is a huge problem. But
Yeah.
absolutely, you can use a loyalty program to negate that returns issue. We've seen, I think there's a brand, Cupshe, I returned something from them recently, and they literally gave me 3 options of how to return it. There was return it
That's cool.
at my cost of postage. There was return it and keep the product. So don't return it, keep the product and get 75% of your money back. And there was a third option that I can't remember. But yeah, adding loyalty points into that would be brilliant. Yes. And you could do the same thing, save everybody the money of the actual return, but credit them with some points. We also, one of the things I love Lululemon is doing, and obviously they're a much bigger brand, but they are setting up a secondhand marketplace for their loyalty program members. So if you're a member of their program, you can go and sell your whatever you were going to return. You could just go sell it secondhand, and again, the brand doesn't then wear the cost of the return. So there's a lot that could be done in that space. Definitely.
I did see one the other day as well that said, if you want to return this item, we'll give you 50% of the money back and you can donate it. So they would actually send, because it's still brand new, we'll donate it to charity, or, one thing that's obviously going on in Europe at the moment is the Ukraine war. So there's stuff like we'll donate this item of clothing to somebody that needs it and give you a 50% refund. So if it costs you £50, you get £25 back, and you basically made a charity donation of £25 for a brand new item to go to someone that needs it, which means it's got the longest possible longevity on the item as well, which is amazing. All right, well, let's talk about other channels then. So loyalty is obviously brilliant. I mentioned right at the start that you can use loyalty to help acquire more customers as well. How does, not just with acquisition, but how does loyalty actually flow into other channels and other marketing things going on outside of traditionally email, which is where you tend to probably hear about the points balances or an app notification or something?
Yeah, to be honest, I think this is the most undersold part of loyalty programs. I think people see it as a standalone activity, but actually it should be perfectly integrated, aligned with all your other marketing that you've got going on. So I think I already mentioned you can award points for building up, for social follows, for social mentions, etc. So if you've got a social media manager, they should be aware of your loyalty program, and they you should be working with them, because you're helping build up that following. And actually your loyalty program members should be creating loads and loads of UGC to go on those social channels. So that is quite a close
should
thing.
be should be
The reviews piece is huge, so you can offer points for a review. You can also offer more points for a photo or a video review, so you're again incentivizing people to leave those reviews that convert so much better. And I love it when there's more detail in a review, not just I really liked it, actually it fitted well, it looked like this is what unboxing it looked like, so that integration with reviews providers, so that you can sort of stage the points you give for different types of reviews, is really powerful. Help desks, your help team, support team can be empowered to give points instead of discounts if there's a negative situation they need to turn around, or they could just be talking to a really great customer and decide, surprise and delight, I'm going to give them some points. I think that's a really powerful one. SMS, obviously more and more brands are using SMS now, and not instead of email, but certainly as well as, you can get your points balance into your SMS strategy, but also I saw a lot over Black Friday, people joining the SMS community as a hook. So sign up to SMS and you will get early access to the sale. So we know that the open rates are huge on SMS, so getting just people to subscribe to that channel is a big thing, and we saw a lot of people doing that, or using their program to drive that. And I guess the last one would be subscriptions. Obviously not for every brand, much more food and beverage or pets, potentially home, if you've got your dishwasher tablets or something on subscription, but you can very much be providing a different experience to a subscriber, because churn's the main problem there, right? Most people subscribe to something, and then as soon as money gets tight, it's the first thing to go. But if your subscription isn't just the products turning up regularly, it's the products turning up regularly with a free sample each month, or with early access to new products, so you can add something different to your package, whatever it might be. I think tying in the loyalty program there, so your most valuable subscribers are getting a much better experience, that really reduces churn as well.
I think I'm going back to a point you made earlier that I meant to pick up on, and I think it's a perfect moment to talk about actually, is supermarkets.
Mm.
I order everything for the office and I use one supermarket to do that. I have another one at home, which we've recently switched. So I've used three regularly in the last
Yeah.
year. And I've noticed that some of them have absolutely nailed it and we use this in a CRO webinar we did a few weeks ago. I think it's on our YouTube channel if anyone's going to check that out. It was just my colleague Rob and I just talking about sites we thought that were great. How do you increase conversion rate, increase average order value, etc. And supermarkets have nailed it because you get to the end of the online buying journey and then they say like, oh, did you forget to add these? Because you normally add this stuff. And then the next one's like, based on what you've put in your basket, would you like any of this stuff? And you're like, oh yeah, I have
Mm.
few of those, on to the next bit. And then the next one, they then go like, these are your incomplete offers, which they deliberately wait until they've been through the
Yeah.
two brand new, net new products to add in. Then it's the incomplete offers. And it's like, you've got 3 bags of crisps, but if you get four, the fourth one's half price. You're like, well, might as well. I'm committed to three now. Let's do that. And suddenly, oh my gosh, look at the total. And then
Yeah.
some of them, when you go back to edit the shop between your first checkout and it actually arriving, you go to edit it. And a lot of them now, they take you through that whole process again.
Okay.
The one in the UK is called Waitrose, which in the US, you've probably never heard of these guys. They're sort of one of the more premium supermarkets, but they're not mega expensive. It's all relative. But yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with that statement. But Waitrose, when you now go to amend stuff, they give you two options. Do you want to go through the full checkout or do you go through just the
Ah,
express checkout? You click one button, it goes, thanks. And that's it. So you add the items, you hit checkout and just press express and it's done. And
yeah.
the interesting thing is I've contacted someone at Waitrose to see if they'll come on the show because I want to find out how many people go through the offers anyway because they like the
Yeah.
offers. They like the big red sale label aisle of every supermarket going like, oh, half price stuff. Let's go. And it's because retail is fun, let's be honest. It's like when you get a good deal on something, you feel good. There's a
Mm.
dopamine release in your brain that goes, that was fun. I liked that. So I think supermarkets are absolutely key when it comes to that, and they all have their own loyalty programs as well. My only frustration with supermarkets is some of them just give you points that turn into cash, and some of them give you loads of
Mm.
cash, and some it feels like like Sainsbury's in the UK feels like you never make any ground on Nectar. I think I've worked out I spent £10,000 with Sainsbury's in the last few years, and I have about £150 of rewards, and I'm like,
Yes.
that's not a good ROI.
No, and that's one of the most fundamental mistakes most people make with their
Mm,
loyalty program. It's either too hard to get value out of it, or it's too confusing
mm.
to get value out of it. It needs to be really clear what I'm going to get in return and why it's valuable, and it means to be really clear how the hell I do it. And I
Yeah, yeah.
think that's where supermarkets go really wrong. But I think it's really interesting what you said because the data they've got, they can give you those recommended deals. They can be
Mm,
putting that stuff in front of you because the data they've got from what you've bought in the past is huge. Whereas if I'm Joe Blogs and I've just bought my first I don't know, collagen supplement,
mm.
you've got nothing on me. You don't know what to
Yeah, yeah.
recommend to me because you don't know me. And one of the things that I'm seeing people do more and more and I love is offering people points in exchange for completing a quiz or a profile. And
Mm,
quizzes are becoming huge in e-commerce, but it's so sensible. First party, zero party data collection is getting harder and harder all the time. So, and you don't have the purchase volume or the order history to tailor suggestions. So if you can get somebody to fill in a questionnaire that says, I've got dry skin, I have oily hair, I like to
mm.
I don't know. I like to exercise 5 times a week, whatever it might. That's a dream, but
Which means 5 hair washes a week as well.
yes, if you can incentivize somebody to give you
Mm,
that information, and then you can give them the right recommendations, the right suggestions
yep.
in return. That's one step towards having the kind of data that those
Mm.
supermarkets do and surfacing the stuff that they do.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, two examples of that, because I completely agree. I think the supermarkets obviously have the volume because I
Mhm.
don't order one, because delivery costs like £4 or £5 anyway, which I know you guys in the US are probably throwing your coffee out when I say that, because you guys it's like $20 plus for any sort of delivery anywhere. And we're fully aware of that. We're very lucky in the little island of Britain. Um, but I think the supermarket says the volume because they see everything you're buying, from maybe some items for the kitchen, like some bowls, some cutlery, along with all your food, all your drink. Yeah. And then they can also categorize stuff. How much you spend on luxury stuff like alcohol that you don't necessarily need versus bread, milk, and eggs, as a comparison. So they've certainly got that. I think one really good example of this is our sponsor back in December. We spoke to a couple of their merchants where they use a thing called Alia Learn, where you literally they offer you like a welcome discount or something, but you have to fill out the survey or sit through some sort of learning program to do that, which I think works really well. We've also, and I haven't mentioned it on the podcast yet, but there's a guy, Ben Leonard. We've had him on, I think, 3 or 4 times now, and he used to run a Shopify store called Beast Gear, and now he's helping other stores grow and develop. When we had him on, I'm going to say July. I'm pretty confident it was July, where we talk about social media. He spoke about Beast Gear's kind of way of doing exactly what you've just described, Fiona, where it's like we're going to ask some questions, and Beast Gear basically wanted to know that they believe they had 3 segmentations of customer, and I can't remember exactly what they were, but it was like the extreme athlete, the someone who takes it really seriously, wants to look good, is in the gym pretty much every day, and then the person, which I would put myself in this category, I think I'm better than I am. Like, I think I go to the gym a lot, but in reality I probably go once a week and then do a bit of other sport on other days, because then they're going to advertise very differently and different products. Like, I'm not going to be interested in stuff that's going to make like a 0.5% difference. I'm like convince me to buy 1 dumbbell. Like, that's where I'm at. Whereas the extreme athletes, like, all right, you currently probably use bungee ropes for stuff. These ones are 2% better. It's going to give a 2% uplift in what you're working out. It's slight better longevity, and you can do a bit more with it. And it comes with a free guide. There's none of that. It's all going to confuse me. I'm not the right kind of customer to that, but the person, the other end of the segmentation is perfect. And so I think you're absolutely right on that kind of trying to work out more about the customer so they know what to talk to them about. And then obviously then you start to build data going, do you know what? We segmented them into these 3, but actually the elite guys are not buying enough. We need to, again, go back, marketing hat back on. We need to revamp or look at trying to understand why they're not buying stuff. So we need to get a focus group together of them, sit them down and say, would you consider yourself this, and this? Great, you're in that category. What sort of equipment are you buying at the moment, and who you're buying it from? And are you aware of this range that we sell? No, I'm not. Right, advertising. Simple. Tell more people that this exists, and do some good segmentation in meta ads or something else. But yeah, I think that segmentation piece is so important.
It is, and I think the relationship between content marketing and loyalty is seriously underrated as well. Because if you've got a great content person who's designing different help guides, how-to guides, articles, etc., for those 2 audiences, and then you whack that into your loyalty program, but you make it an exclusive tier, and again, then you're making people feel like they're part of a bigger community, and the right community as well. You know, you could have your elite athletes over here, and you could have your me and Nicks over here. You know. And if you can provide different content for them, but something that everybody finds valuable and probably gets people using their product more, but make it part of a perk that makes somebody feel a bit special and a bit part of something bigger. Then,
especially if you use an influencer as that content creator, it's such a smarter, better, more fruitful way, and probably better for the influencer. It's like, we want you to talk to our community. That's way more exciting than just get more leggings sold, you know, go and wear some leggings and do some nice bum shots and people buy stuff. And it's like, everyone's doing that, and it's a bit overdone. And actually a lot of customers now are like, I want to buy the product, not the person. You know, there's a whole movement against that kind of thing. And we've got to be aware of those things, which I think is actually very healthy, if I'm honest. So actually having an influencer sort of saying like, you know, I'm what's his name? Joe Wicks is our like famous Brit at the moment, who's constantly on like all the big news channels talking about health and everything else, and you hear him on the radio. If Joe Wicks then sent an email out to you from a random brand saying like, hey, I'm working with this brand, I understand you're one of these kind of customers, check out my new range of pre-made protein shakes or something, you're like, I love Joe. He's all over the news. He's a trustworthy guy. There's no bad press about him. He's a fantastic influencer. So much more beneficial than just Joe's wearing our t-shirt.
Yes.
That's kind of it.
And I have never, ever, and I would honestly buy a bottle of champagne for the first brand I saw do this. I've never seen an influencer talk about a loyalty program or promote a loyalty program or tell everybody how great the experience they have in a loyalty program is. Never seen anybody do that.
Wow. Anyway, I'm going to bring things into land. But yeah, Fiona, it's been great to chat. As always, I've got 1.5 pages of notes today. I think you might have broken the record, which is fantastic. But thank you so much for your time. It's been great to have you on.
No, thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Great stuff. And if anyone's sitting there thinking, right, I want to try LoyaltyLion, you know, how can they get in touch? Have you guys got any offers that you want to talk about, or any way of getting in contact with you guys and giving your platform a test?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have a 20% off offer for all of the Winning with Shopify audience. So if you head to loyaltylion.com/win, you can unlock that. Otherwise, as I said, follow us on social, sign up to the newsletter. Hopefully lots of good, useful content coming out all the time.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. And thank you as well to all of our listeners. It'd be really awkward if none of you tuned in. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found today useful. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave us a review, and check out winningwithshopify.com. We're about to evolve the website over the next few months as well. So any advice on what else you would like to get out of the podcast and content we're doing, we are all ears. But we're going to be continuing this series on loyalty for the rest of January. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope to have you again with us next Friday. Thanks a lot.